You see, the starting point for anyone who truly wants financial freedom is to have a clear understanding of what money really is. If you don't know what you are looking for, the tendency that you may not know when you find it arises. I have discovered over time the missing link in the mindset of people is their inability to differentiate what money is and what. Listen, dear beloved, your currency, whether dollar, whether pounds, whether euro, it is actually not money. Your credit card, it's not actually money. Your ATM that you use, it is not actually money. Even the checkbook, it's not actually money. It may shock you what money truly is. And you need to allow us to show you, allow light to come. You have to have an open mind as we take you through this journey to show you what money truly is. So if you say paper currency is money, so what do you call what existed before the era of paper currency? If you say the ATMs, the cards are money, so why don't you use it to withdraw and get what you want? How come so many people have ATMs in their wallets, in their purse, yet they are broke? And if you say the checkbook is money, why don't you write out an amount that you want? Maybe for your son's school fees, maybe for your vehicle, you want to buy a new car. Why don't you just write any amount and get what you want? Let me tell you, you see, this earth was created by the Creator, God Himself. To those of us that believe there is God, He created this earth without currency, without credit cards, without checkbook. He was not broke. He didn't apply for loan, and he never filed in for bankruptcy. And if God could create these things, He was able to create them. He was not broke. How come we are suddenly broke? For us to truly understand what money is, we need to travel back to the era, to the evolution of money. Then we will give good and precise perspective. We have precise perspective of what truly money is. First level evolution, the hunter, the gatherer, the caveman age. At this stage of evolution, humanity barely wore clothes. There were no bills to pay. There were no houses to live. There were no cars, there were no malls, there were no clubs, there were nothing. In fact, the earth was not useful to them. They didn't have anything they were benefiting from the earth. At this point, the credit cards, the checkbooks, the currencies, whether dollar, whether euro, whether cedis, whether naira, whether yen, it was useless to them. If you had given them $10 million, if you had given them $10 billion, if you had given them $1,000, it wouldn't have been useful to them. You know what they would have used that money to do, that currency, that thing that both of us are fighting for now, struggling. They would have used it for fire. Some would even would have gone as far as using it for toilet. Some would use it they would just throw it away because it was of no value to them at that point in time. So at that point in time, virtually everyone was a hunter. They hunted for survival. They had to hunt to feed themselves and to feed their family. Everyone was hunting, and they relied on their assets was their strength and their skill. If you were not skillful, if you were not strong, you wouldn't have survived. So it is safe to say that their strength and their skill was the money of that era. So if you don't have strength, you don't have skill, you couldn't obtain anything. So their energy was their hard work, and their skill was their smartness. So they relied on their strength and their energy, and that was the money of that era. Second level evolution, the farming, the agrarian age. Life is dynamic. Life is not static. So as men began to evolve, things began to change. Then in the era of the brutes, in the era of strength, in the era of skill, all they trusted, they believed their money was their strength and their skill, how to hunt. Over time, men began to discover that there are other benefits inherent beneath the earth. Initially, they were only concerned about what moved on the surface of the earth. But over time, they began to discover that there are other beautiful things. There are other edible things that could be gotten from the earth. And that was where the farming and agrarian age came to fall. And men began to say, okay, if I begin to own land, I will be wealthy. That was another definition of what money was or money is at that time. So land ownership became a norm, a condition, a factor, or an indicator that this person was wealthy. That was what also led into what ownership of land. Then men began to become polygamous in nature. So they had to marry more wives in order to have more children so that they can be able to cultivate and own more land. So see, more wives, more children, then they will acquire more territories and they will begin to plant. So the wealth, money moved from brute towards ownership of land, ownership of farmland, more wives and more children. So that was where money has shifted to. Those who remained in level 1 as hunters and refused to transfer their energy and skill to farming and owning of plantations gradually lose ground and become obsolete. Trade by barter. At this stage, money had evolved and there came the era of trade by barter because their strength and their skill has produced much more that they required for their survival. That was the emergence of trade by barter. Then what is actually trade by barter? Trade by barter is an economic process which requires an exchange. You exchange what you have for what you needed. You must come to the marketplace with what you have for what you need. There must be a value. There must be an exchange. So you had yam and you wanted plantain, so you must look for someone who had plantain and was ready to exchange it for yam, and you must come to an agreement at a unit that, okay, I'm giving you this quantity of yam for this quantity of plantain, and the person was also willing to accept that quantity of plantain for the quantity of yam that you are about to exchange. So you could exchange land for land, you could exchange produce for produce, you could exchange land for produce, you could exchange produce for land, you can equally exchange land for slave or slave for land. At this era, money was all about what you had in exchange. It was all about trade by barter. It is what you could give in order to what you could give. So the question is, if at that point in time, exchange was money, and that exchange is still applicable now, why then are we running after the paper currency? Why then are we running after the credit card? Why then are we running after the checkbook? Why don't we look for something that we have in order to do what? To exchange it to get what we need? But the biggest challenge, the greatest challenge is that so many people focus on the money, they focus on the currency, they focus on the credit card, they focus on the checkbook instead of focusing on the need of that person. If you are able to discover what the person needs and you are able to produce value, believe me, the person will be willing to pay. So actually, in the long run, or in a nutshell, or the main thing is not actually the currency, it is what you have against what you can give in order to get what you have. But we mistake it. We think when we have money that we are wealthy. We think when we have currency, we think when we have this credit card. No, you need to do what? Identify the need. What that person has, that is actually the money. What the person is looking for, that is actually the money. What the society needs, that is actually the money. What the government is looking for, that is actually the money. If you are able to do what? To produce it, then the money flows to you naturally. Level 3 evolution, the industrial age. At this level of evolution, money has moved. Men came to discover there was much more in this earth, beneath the earth, that was originally known. You know, at the beginning, men trusted in their strength and their skill. That was their money. So it moved from there to the era of what? The farming and the agrarian. Then they produced beyond what they needed. The money moved from that time to exchange, what you could be able to bring to the marketplace. Over time, men came to discover there was much more. There was gold, there was crude oil, there was precious stones, there were coal beneath the earth, and that was what spiked up the revolution. And this revolution dwarfed the evolution era that we were coming from, and that was when the school system came on board, and that was when the job and the salary system came on board because of this industrial age. Level 4 evolution, technology and information age. The industrial age is almost dead. Though many are still living in that era and they are wallowing in poverty, the world is now a global village and the internet is our marketplace. We are in the era of technology and information where smart work overtakes hard work, where brain power rules your physical strength. Things have changed. Money has evolved. Money has moved on. It is no more the hard currency. It's no more the currency, the paper notes, the cards. It is now e-commerce. What is money? So what is money? Let me give you the definitions of money from what we have gathered so far. Money is any medium of exchange. Whatever you have that you have and you can be able to give in order to get what you want, it is money. It is not necessarily paper. It is not necessarily the card. Whatever you have in exchange for what you need, at that point in time, it's money. There was a time it was strength, it was skill. There was a time it was trade by barter. There was a time it was subsistent farming. There was a time that it was an industrial age. So what you have in exchange for what you want at any point in time is money. Another definition of money is it is a reward for solving a problem. So money flows in the direction of value. So if you are able to solve a problem, money comes to you. So whatever you get in exchange of that thing that you have produced, it becomes your money. If you solve small problem, you get small money. If you solve medium problem, you get medium money. If you solve big problem, you get big money. If you solve national problem, you get national money. If you solve global problem, you get global money. So money is what flows in the direction of what you are able to give out. And as we come to the end of today's training, I just want us to have a sober reflection deep down inside of us. Please, brother, please, sister, please, my family, I want you to think over it. I want us to look at this, examine this. Where did all the money go to during the global meltdown that happened a couple of years back? Where did all this money go to? The dollar, the pounds, the naira, the cedi? Where did they go to? Is it that someone gathered all the money in Africa, gathered all the money in Europe, gathered all the money in South America, gathered all the money in Oceania, gathered all the money in Israel, gathered all the money in the Middle East and burnt it? Why was it that countries were filing in for bankruptcy? What actually happened? I don't want to go delve into the global politics, but I want to give you an advice. You need to prepare for the rainy day that is ahead. The question is, can this world do without your uniqueness? What do you have in exchange? What can you give that is unique to you? Can your boss where you work currently, can they do without you? If you stop work instantly, will they just call the ambulance? Just after the ambulance, they get somebody to replace you. Of course, nobody is indispensable, but can you be indispensable just for 1 minute? Can the robots take over what you do? So you need to be unique. You need to create your own uniqueness. You need to bring value. You need to bring value to the table. Otherwise, we are leaving you behind. And I know that that is not going to be your portion. So you need to do what you need to do in order to get to where you need to get to, in order to sustain and in order to survive what is ahead of us. Amazing how time flies. If you have found today's training useful, we want you to do something for us. We want you to like, we want you to comment, tell us what you think money truly is, and we want you to share, and also we want you to subscribe. Your subscription, your like, your comments are the reasons why we are here, giving you quality training. We also want to thank our coach Ogbo, I love you. And I also want to thank Coach Dr. Pastor Emmanuel Olumide. You are our jewel. We appreciate you. You are the reasons why we are here today. We want to thank every one of us, and we also want to tell you we are into real estate. We talk real estate, we talk stock market. All those things are loaded. We are coming now. We are going to visit farms, and we are going to be producing farms for those of us that are interested in farming, those of us that are interested in real estate, those of us that are interested anywhere. Call us. We are here to share with you Investment 101, your pathway to wealth creation. God bless you. See you at the top. Remain at the top. We love you.